what impact could additional United States sanctions have on Russia's economy and its military campaign or military attack or military assault in Ukraine, sir?
This would be the first example where US mediation has not reaped any kind of outcomes or beneficial outcomes for any of the parties, whether it be Russia and if not Ukraine. In my analysis, I understand that the US was trying to get to a bilateral meet, and of course afterwards the US would join into a trilateral meet between Ukraine and Russia. However, Donald Trump is now changing his tactic. He is trying to move away from the situation in the between Europe and Russia. I say Europe and Russia because it's not just Ukraine that is facing the brass of the Russian strikes. We know earlier in this week a large number of drone strike has happened, and a large attack has taken place in Ukraine, even in western Ukraine. Yes. Previously we were talking about how eastern Ukraine and how some people were loyal to the Russian regime in the eastern flank, but at this moment in time we see that the western Ukraine is also taking some kind of pressure from the Russian attack. Of course, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said all options are on the table for further sanctioning on Russia. Of course, it was following an historic summit with President Donald Trump in Alaska. We know how that has happened, but over the weekend there was one important issue that I would like to pick out. We didn't see Donald Trump for 2 days. He was away from the media presence, and later we found out he was golfing in his Virginia golf course. But one of the things that has taken geopolitics by storm was the meeting between three significant leaders. I'll tell you who they are. It is Vladimir Putin of Russia, Narendra Modi of India, and of course Xi Jinping in China. And these three leaders were seen exchanging friendly talk, and they were laughing, especially Narendra Modi was laughing to the fact between the three, and of course the translators were there from each and respective countries. But one thing that I noticed that how Donald Trump has stayed silent on this matter, and how Vladimir Putin, someone who is clearly the aggressor in this Ukraine-Russia war, is seen exchanging congratulatory talks between the leaders. Of course, this is a moment of understanding for the United States and how Donald Trump plans to see the remaining 3-4 months that are left of this year to understand how far this escalation is going to go.
Right, sir. I also have so much of updates on SCO summit in Tianjin in China. Number one is North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reached China to meet the world leaders, and Erdogan from Turkey is there. Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif is there. I will definitely bring back the SCO summit. At the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO summit in Tianjin, President Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin reaffirmed a united front advocating for a new global governance system and pushing back against US influence. The meeting, also attended by Narendra Modi, Indian Prime Minister, underscored cooperation in infrastructure, technology and energy, with Xi announcing the creation of an SCO development bank and 1.4 billion in loans and grants. My question to our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho: how important is India's balancing act between the West and Russia, China in shaping future global order? Because we have to remember, sir, China and India has a border clash since last 90 years.
Thank you for the question. It's quite so important. Let me begin by saying that the leaders that have met in the Shanghai Cooperation Council, we slowly start to see a movement away from the one world order that America or United States of America had imposed from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in 1920, and up until that it's been quite the century, and especially this year 2025 has immense significance in geopolitics. Why I say this is because we know that India and China had border territorial disputes between the respective armies of the two countries. However, there was one notion in which India and China may choose to become better friends or choose dialogue over conflicts between one another. It was when America had decided for a 50% tariff on India that had made and which has made India to think otherwise and look towards its territories and in its neighborhood. Of course, relationships between India and its immediate neighborhoods, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, and everyone else in this region, they're not working towards any kind of fruitful conversation between these countries. However, they have chosen China as a mean to understand how to tackle this tariff issue with United States. So in another sense, the America has helped India and China to once again become a friendly nation between one another. Now this is very significant as India is trying to balance its economic and foreign policy ties. I'm sure that the Belt and Road Initiative even of China and how it has made sure that India also follow through, even having a rival like Pakistan at the summit, even though both the respective leaders of both countries were far away from one another. They are enemies. They have gone into war earlier this year, but they came to the understanding of China, and China is trying to play the part which we infamously know America used to do before. So one can say that China is becoming the secondary world dominant power immediately after the US.
According to your question, this morning I was talking with one of the journalists from London. He was asking me, why don't you discuss one thing? BRICS will lead anti-American allies. Who will lead BRICS? Is it Russia or China? Small answer, sir.
These are two giant countries. Their militaries are not comparable to even our country. Not only so, the BRICS and the nations combined, their united goal would be to remove their dependency on the dollar and how they would trade amongst one another in their own currencies. Of course, this is marked to be looked at by the American authorities, the Federal Reserve, if not. But yes, it wouldn't just be one leader who is calling the shots. It would be all the leaders coming to a united solution. One of the examples that the SCO had called for was a ceasefire in Gaza, and they look forward to a just solution to the Palestinian issue. So they are trying to look at worldwide issues which are outside of their boundaries as well.
I want to talk about India depends ties with Russia amid US tariffs. Indian Prime Minister Modi and President Putin reaffirmed a special and privileged relationship. I repeat, special and privileged relationship. Their coordination comes as the US implements step tariffs 50% on Indian imports, primarily over energy imports from Russia. India depend its energy security strategies, citing a global oil market stability. Putin is expected to visit India in December to continue strategic talks. My question would be, India is in a position doing business with Russia, doing business with China, doing military strategy with Russia, doing military strategy with China. Ultimately, India is gaining power. Do you think India would be next superpower?
Thanks for the question. Although I am not in a position to answer whether or not India to become a superpower or not, but I could definitely say that America has made sure that India have a roadmap, and India have a positive relationship with its allies China and Russia, and of course they are allied through the BRICS. And not only so, at this moment I understand that climate change is one of the issues that not just India, it's also Bangladesh and Pakistan that are facing. But coming back to your initial question, America has made sure of this friendly relationship between the countries, even though they have had border clashes and each other's armies physically beating up one another, and that has happened over the 2018 and 17 clashes at the border. And even though there are territorial disputes, they are now looking towards friendship and mutual respect between one another. Definitely military balance, but you look at America, their initial step was mediation between Ukraine and Russia. This mediation attempt bear no kind of fruit. Immediately afterwards, the war room tactic of the American administration turned to how else can we stop this Russian aggression, and that is when America has decided, all right, if it was for crude oil export to India, and if that was how Russia remained profitable even after facing American sanctions, maybe it is time we attacked, or we chose to imply a 50% tariff on India, and that has happened. And what are the outcomes in this regard? It was India having a much more reliance on Russia and vice versa. And this is a very dangerous time in world geopolitics. One can definitely assume that America is now coming to a point where it has no friends. 70 nations that has America had tariffed. And there is an escalation in the Caribbean. I picked it out on Sunday's show. If definitely Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela, if they chose to have into this grouping between the BRICS nations, it would definitely be something to watch out for, definitely for the American administration.
Sir, every policy, every person has some limit of strength and capacity, ability.
Yes.
My question is, how could Trump's threat, I use the word threat, of 30 to 35% tariffs on the European Union countries, Mexico and Canada, reshape US global trade relations? They are losing friends.
One can lose its friends based on such a tariff package, and of course the ties that it was previously, when we used to look at the media, we used to see United States and the allies. And who were these allies? These definitely were the countries based in Europe. And of course this tariff that he's playing, to some extent, we are very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate for us to hear that the US administration has taken a role of a corporate language. Today we see there is a shake-up in the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, and there have been widespread protests because Director Susan Monares was fired, and her deputy Jim O'Neill has been named as the acting director. This is a move that triggered an exodus of senior CDC scientists, raising concern about eroding scientific research and integrity in the agency. Today these words as fired is being openly seen between government organizations and those who are serving the government in America. Of course, we also see that various position holders in America is also losing their jobs because of the one-handed response by Donald Trump's administration. And not only so, we see a notable move. On 29th August, Donald Trump had rescinded former Vice President Kamala Harris's extended Secret Service protection, which previous leaders of the state will definitely have the Secret Service protection, but this time around he has rescinded such a protection package, and this has sparked criticism and prompting state security discussions in California. Much more of what you see internationally and how America is playing on the international field, a new growing concern that is happening is inside America. And even not just that, even now in a couple of weeks or days maybe, the America might see itself in a position trying to going into a confrontation with Venezuela. I've been commenting about this. I don't see any other reason other it be political intention from United States to target Venezuela, to remove its leader Nicolas Maduro. And definitely there are three things that are of significance here: the immense oil reserves that Venezuela has, the drug trafficking issue that America is trying to make it issue, and of course, if there was to be a fighting between in the South Caribbean, it would not only destabilize the Caribbean, it would make sure that the entirety of America's North, Central and South become destabilized as well. So these are the issues that America definitely needs to once again understand. And as Norman Floyd Barnes was saying, that his popularity as the POTUS, as President of the United States of America, is definitely on the decline.